I was reading Li Hong's book this week, and he talks about how the Shaoyin, or the heavenly fire, is that spark. It's a spark that warms our chi. Like, it's what keeps us alive, right? And it's the connection to the great void. It's the connection to nothingness. And the Shaoyang, conversely, is the form, is the fire taking form.
I'm Michael Max, and this is Geological, the podcast that curates East Asian medicine and methods through the power of conversation. I get nervous around declarations of wisdom. I suspect it's an artifact of my teenage years, when it was painfully obvious that the religious people I was told to hold in esteem were often riddled with the contradictions and hypocrisy that go along with the enterprise of being human. I'm not sure how it's possible to authentically live life without some glaringly obvious contradictions and inconsistencies. Life is just too complicated and surprising not to have inconsistencies, especially if you're involved with growing into a new version of yourself. I've had trouble with the so-called wise men who had multiple Rolls Royces, the televangelists who shilled for donations, the sexual antics of the Rinpoches, the way the Catholic Church controlled an empire's worth of wealth, the, air quotes here, wisdom that was supposed to be embodied in the so-called wise men. I didn't see it. And that old saw about as you age, you become wise, I'm sure you've noticed plenty of elders that don't wear that mantle well. So I get nervous around the word wisdom. Like to keep my distance from it. I saw a patient the other day. Hadn't seen her in years, but there's a new problem that she's facing, and so she's visiting again. She's a kind person, thoughtful, and generous with her spirit. I like talking with her because she's one of those sorts of people that tends to brighten up a room when she's in it. As we were discussing her condition, I said something that, well, I can't remember it now, but she said I was wise. Now, you know that I get nervous around claiming any kind of wisdom, and was about to start in with, no, not me. And then it occurred to me that in service of helping her, maybe I should let it in. That perhaps there is an unclaimed aspect of my experience that I can allow into the room, at least for the space of the time that she and I were together, to allow her to recognize something that maybe I'm blind or foreign to allow her sense of how she experiences me to simply be as it is without pushing it away. In the same way that I allow for any aspect of my patient's experience to be welcome in the open, soft space of clinic. And then it occurred to me that perhaps, just maybe, an aspect of wisdom is knowing how to craft a treatment that a patient can receive. Like soil has to be permeable enough to allow in water, so a thundery deluge runs off, while a morning of soft soaking rain, that can be absorbed. As I reflect on this, I think it might be right that an aspect of wisdom is knowing how to craft a treatment that a patient is capable of allowing in. Not doing a treatment that ticks the boxes of my intellectual framework or aligns with something a teacher that I hold in esteem has said. All well and good, all that is, but instead to allow in their view of the world so that I can feel into who they experience themselves to be, and then find the points that take them to what feels like home to them. That idea that the earth element is in the middle of fire and water and metal and wood, that makes sense to me. But our lives expand out from that place that we call home. There is wisdom in the soil. Dirt is the humblest of the elements. What happens when fire is both spark and blaze? When the quiet in the stillness of the heart meets the outward push of the season? In this follow-up conversation on the seasonal host and guest Qi with Christine Cannon, we explore the Shaoyin Shaoyang axis of fire to explore how creativity arises from the void and how ministerial fire brings what's hidden into form. We discuss the slower rhythms of an inadequate metal year, the friction of seasonal delay, and how host and guest Qi shape what unfolds in clinic and life. There's insight here on how wind fuels fire, how transformation rarely feels good while it's happening, and how equanimity, it isn't a posture, it's a practice. If you've been wondering how to move with the times without being consumed by them, you'll enjoy this exploration of the influences of heaven on earth. Geological Conversations come to you through the generous support of our sponsors and members. You have clinic challenges? Our sponsors have solutions. Looking to reimagine clinical practice? Consider the study of nature's design with Ed Neal at the Apricot Grove. Cupping reimagined, and I'm not sure why somebody didn't do this sooner. Fascia Buddy from our friends at AccuFast is going to change your practice. Blue Poppy offers same-day fulfillment and free shipping on orders over $50. Later in the show, Jane makes clinic life easier with templates. Need to send a custom formula to a patient? Suntan makes it easy for you with their direct delivery service. Do be sure to visit the sponsors page on the Geological website to take advantage of all the special offers our terrific sponsors have for listeners of the podcast. Are you ready to create your practice through an in-depth study of the original writings of Chinese medicine? Beginning August 24th, join the Apricot Grove and Dr. Edward Neal on a transformative journey into the roots of Chinese medicine. If you are new to the classics, their Wisdom of the Cosmos class offers a wonderful introduction to the original writings of Chinese medicine and Neijing nature-based medicine. For those seeking a deeper immersion, their highly esteemed 2-year postgraduate training in Neijing nature-based medicine and classical text archaeology provides a comprehensive pathway to advanced clinical practice grounded in the Neijing text. Come and join a vibrant global community reimagining clinical practice through the traditional writings of the Huangdi Neijing and study of nature's design. Tuition assistance is available. Visit neijingstudies.com to learn more and enroll today.
Hello, fellow change agents. This is John Stan, creator of the Fascia Buddy Square Cupping System, which I am very happy to say is now available in Canada and launching mid-July at your favorite U.S. distributor. This innovative, multi-sized square cupping set is opening up fresh treatment possibilities everywhere. One great example is in the use of our smallest cups. They fit perfectly just under the occipital ridge when you add a bit of cream to mat down the hair. Now you can precisely target gallbladder 20 and UB10 to create powerful decompression in this very tricky zone. You can stop there or add more cups along the bladder or gallbladder line for even deeper tissue engagement. Have your patient gently move their neck for a few minutes, then pop the cups off and watch their face light up as mobility increases and tension is way down. Often, it's a dramatic change and super quick. And that's just one use. I'm sure you'll have endless others in your clinic. Visit fasciabuddy.com to learn more and get your set now.
When it comes to running a smooth, efficient clinic, having a reliable supplier makes all the difference. That's where Blue Poppy comes in. From premium acupuncture needles and trusted herbal formulas to innovative solutions like their liquid moxa, a smokeless, low-fume alternative to traditional moxa, Blue Poppy has everything you need all in one place. And the best part, Blue Poppy offers free shipping on all orders over $50 with no restriction in the continental United States. For nearly 40 years, Blue Poppy has supported licensed acupuncturists with high-quality products and a commitment to exceptional service. Visit bluepoppy.com today and discover why so many practitioners trust Blue Poppy. Don't forget to subscribe to their mailing list for exclusive offers and more. Christine Canyon, welcome back to Geological.
I'm glad to be here and glad to be back. Yes, thank you.
I've been looking forward to this ever since our last conversation. We've been talking about one of these things that we hear about a lot. It's kind of tricky to understand, Yun Liu Qi. And there's a lot to it, and it changes as the year goes on. And it's kind of a cosmic-y thing, but it's kind of an earthly thing. And it's something that you could probably talk about for a long, long time. So we're back here to talk about it because we're partially through the year. Things change in the middle of the year. There's a guest chi, there's a host chi. And we were just talking a moment ago before rolling some tape about how things are going and what the year is like. And I said something to the effect of, yeah, the difference between the dragon and the snake, you know those like moving escalators in an airport, like a moving sidewalk, and you get on it and you walk, and when you get off, there's a little bit of a little slowness. Except my experience was, you're the dragon. It's not that moving escalator is at going at the pace of walking. It's at the pace of running fast. And then you come off of it and whoa, everything just stops.
Exactly.
That was exactly. So
yeah, why
don't we begin with that, and then what's happening, talk about what's been going on
right
here in the first part of the year and those energies, and then we'll move into what's coming up. We're recording this, by the way, at the beginning of June, but y'all will be listening to this in July, so just keep that in mind.
Yeah, the timing's wonderful, really, but going to that point of the shift in energies from that energy of the dragon into the snake, and also from a yang into a yin expression of wood, there is that hesitancy. And it's been quite fascinating how initially at the beginning of the year, when things really showed themselves to be as chaotic as they have proven to be, that I and several of my colleagues and also my patients went into sort of a waiting stance, kind of like, oh, how is this going to unfold? And a watching perspective, if you will. And of course, that didn't happen all the time. People certainly were triggered, and we had the energies of the spring or Jueyin period with the Yang Ming visiting. So there was conflicting energies, and that's continued actually through the Shaoyin period with the visiting qi of the Taiyang, where the whole expression of the move from out of winter into the warmer months has been really quite erratic and changeable. And so naturally for a lot of people I've noticed, they're doing the sit and watch waiting game to see really what's going to manifest.
I'm really happy to hear you say that. And the reason I'm happy is because that's exactly where I've been at. I've been watching the events of the world unfold. Dramatic, crazy. And rather than being really reactive, like, oh my God, I have to do this, I have to do that, da, 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 I've been more just sitting back, wait, like what? Like, what does this really mean? Before I move into action, what am I actually looking at?
Observation. Because it's changing. It's changing daily sometimes, certainly weekly. And in terms of my clinical practice, I've had people share with me their frustration, mostly with the weather. But it's interesting because that's sort of like the obvious, it's the easiest. It's like, well, it was 85 degrees yesterday and we woke up and it was 34 degrees this morning, and I put my plant starts in and I have to cover that. Like, it's just this like start, stop energy happening, and it's creating frustration on many levels, but it's being expressed as almost a bewilderment, almost like, what is happening? Yeah.
What a great word, bewilderment. That really fits.
Yeah, the flow, there's always flow. We know that. There's the natural rhythm of the seasons. But then that flow can certainly be impeded. And we've had that, especially this last Qi period that wrapped up around March 20th. It was the Shaoyin, so the early warmth or the early warming time of the year, but the visiting chi was Taiyang. So that cold energy was hanging around and impeding that natural flow into warmth. And so clinically, once again, taking it back to clinic, we had a round of late season colds, and they were lasting for 7 to 10 days. They weren't just a simple spring cold where it was like out of sorts for 2 or 3 days. It was like, no, it took the whole family down for a week, that kind of thing. And we're moving out of that somewhat now that we're into June and things have stabilized a little bit. However, this morning, I live in Western Colorado, and we certainly get our sprinkling of fog here or there, but this morning it was dense. We woke up to dense fog, humidity, and we just entered the Shaoyang period and back in May 20th, and it's like, no, the cold's dragging its feet and wants to hang around. And so that, in terms of how we express ourselves out in the world, there's a hesitancy, there's a blocking, to that creative expression of the Shaoyang.
And it's being blocked right now. Is it still the time? I know the terms, but I don't know, like, the way that all the decoder ring wheels spin together. Yeah. Well,
there's layers, and nothing happens at a defined point in time. There's a shift, certainly, that you can perceive, but in a year like 2025, the overarching yun chi, or 5-period chi, is inadequate metal. So in years that there's an inadequate chi, the season manifestation comes late. So it sort of drags its feet. So we just went from around May 20th, we shifted from the second chi period of the Shaoyin into the third chi period, which is the Shaoyang, with the guest chi is yin, which is wind. And we've had a sprinkling of it, but because we're in an inadequate year, the expression of the season is going to come late. So it'll probably start showing up in the next week or two, that true warmth of the Shaoyang and the wind of the yin guest chi.
Inadequate metal. That's a very interesting phrasing.
It's from the Neijing. It's actually from the Paul Unshold translation of the Neijing, and they talk of abundant years and inadequate. Basically, abundant being more yang expression, inadequate being more yin expression. So yin, a little hidden, not quite ready to come out, but it's there.
And inadequate metal. So would this allow the wood to run a little bit rampant?
Absolutely. And that's why, we've seen erratic change back and forth, hot, cold. It's been quite remarkable what we've seen in terms...
Tariff, no tariff?
Right, yeah. And then that runaway wood generates too much fire, which then can overact on metal. So, for people who were born in years of inadequate metal, they need to, this year they need to be very self-protective, and they need probably their fire element to be tempered, their wood and fire to be tempered. Yeah. Which during the Qi period ruled by fire is going to become more noticeable.
Right. So you say that we're entering into Shaoyang Zhiyin, right? These are kind of a natural pair.
They are, yes. Yeah.
Fire, so I think fire and wind.
Mm-hmm, exactly. That's exactly what it is. So the fire expression, the expression of the Shaoyang is natural to this time of the year. Yin is spring, right? And it's about change. It's about moving from one state to the next. So they are compatible in the sense Yin and Shaoyang, liver and gallbladder. But in terms of a climactic factor, they're a little bit problematic together in that the wind can fuel fire, and then fire creates its own wind. We haven't seen it show up too extreme right yet. I'm trying to think if I've heard of any raging fires recently.
I think there's actually something that's been burning up in Canada.
I think so, yes. Yeah, so it'll start showing itself. I know wind has been a factor, like I said, randomly here over the last few weeks, but it should, it'll start showing up more consistently as the season progresses. And then people will get agitated, understandably.
Yes.
Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong, When I think of wind, I think of things getting stirred up. Look, things are really stirred up right now anyway. And like you said, when you generate fire, the fire will then generate its own wind. And now you've really got a problem because the thing just runs away.
Mm-hmm.
And we're in a wood year as well. So wood also relates to wind.
It does. Change.
Mm.
Yeah. But, also in the not flip side, but a positive expression is new growth. And I'm reminded of a younger colleague I have who I get to chat with periodically, and their perspective was really refreshing one day when I was having a bit of a hard time with all that was happening. And they said, really, if I sit quietly, I can only just tap into the potential for positive change as a result of all this chaos. And the timing was perfect. I was like, oh, there's the breath of fresh air that I needed. And that, yes, wind does stir things up. And it maybe stirs things up when things need to be stirred up. And then there's the potential for change and new growth.
Yeah. It doesn't mean that living through that time is at all pleasant.
No, not at all. Yeah.
Are you familiar by any chance with a podcast, a guy, Dan Carlin, a hardcore history podcast? You familiar with him at all?
Very superficially, yeah.
Very superficially. Okay, I'm just going to give a quick shout out to Dan Carlin. He's an amazing narrator. He picks these moments in human history that are horrible. I mean, they are like the worst damn thing you can imagine. He did a whole series on like the Mongol invasions, right? The whole history of the Khans and the whole thing. And as he says, and he loves these points in history because there is such dramatic change and there's so much that comes out of it that today, looking back, we would go, oh, that actually helps to support the life that we have that we actually like and are appreciative of. You don't want to be living through those kinds of times, but they do contain that element of transformation. I don't know how you feel about transformation. I used to think it was a cool thing. Oh, we're in the transformation business. But my experience with transformation is, generally speaking, if I can avoid it, I would like to.
It's a necessary part of life, right? But it is typically, my experience has been for my own self and also those close to me and definitely patients, it's not easy. It's awfully uncomfortable. There's a lot of resistance. People, we don't want to feel pain. We don't want to feel those awful emotions. We don't want to see the result of those awful emotions. But ultimately, to transform, that's part of the process. It's not going around or jumping over it. It's actually going through it. It's kind of like I remember in the 90s, when I was on the Front Range and just maybe it was just the crowd I was in, but, it was cool to transform and it was cool to do this and it was cool to do that. We had no idea what we were talking about. We were young, like it's a true transformation. It knocks you around. It's bumpy. It hurts. It's incredibly liberating when you get on the other side of it. But man, when you go through it, it's,
Yes, this is exactly what I was talking about. I used to think it was a cool, groovy thing. Of course, when you're younger, too, I think there's this aspect. Born into a world, we didn't ask for it. Grow up in a world, hey, it wasn't built for us. How do I fit? Where do I fit? How do I make the world different? So at a younger age, and I think rightly so, we're kind of agitating for change. We're agitating for growth. Transformation sounds like a great idea. I love hearing you talk about connecting with younger colleague and them saying, yeah, there's something coming and it's okay. Bring it on.
That's pretty much, that was the essence of the conversation. But the recognition of where we are right now in that process is not fun. It's not comfortable. We're having to make a lot of adjustments, and I certainly have really dug in / leaned into my ability to be impartial because of the population of my clinic. I have to be. I can't be attached. I can't come into my clinical practice or fired up because I read something or heard something or watched something that I didn't like. I have to stay grounded, and that's that snake energy. Really, is that sitting back, being quiet, being still, and being present not closing your eyes, you're not hiding from it, but you're not, like you said, reacting. You're not charging forth. And you know what's coming next year is the fire horse. So it's going to be interesting to go from the yin wood snake into a fire horse year. It's going to be quite fascinating. I think we're going to have a similar conversation, but from the opposite side of the aisle, if you will.
Well, there's been so much change and so much rumbling about change that thinking about a fire horse, like, could we hold on to the snake for another year or two or three?
Yeah, right. Yeah, we all need to, we need to just exhale a little bit. Yeah.
Yes. And there's something, I think you just used the word going into clinic being impartial. And you were referring to, I guess, a population of people. I'm suspecting you see people of all different political stripes where you live.
Most definitely. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And I do too. I do as well. And I'd have to say it has made me a better practitioner over the years, because I can have one person come in and talking about the government XYZ, and the next one coming in and talking about the government XYZ, and have to be able to sit with both of them and help them with whatever that means to them.
Absolutely. Involved but not attached.
Involved but not oh, I love that. Involved but not attached.
Yeah.
Tell me more about that.
It's the ability to be in hold space for opposites, quite frankly, to be able to be present and clear in your own place, so that you can be in that space with differing opinions. Not necessarily at the same time. That's one of the... Occasionally I'll have a look at who's on my schedule and I'll be like, okay, I'm going to manage this so that they don't cross. Just because, people can randomly say stuff and it's just like, whoops, okay, so I've been kind of, unfortunately it hasn't been an issue, but occasionally I'll be like, okay, yeah, this is what I've got coming up for today, and just stay in that space of being present and involved but not attached.
It's really amazing practice.
It is. And it's good for us as personal beings, like outside of our clinic. I mean, the skill that I've learned within my clinic in terms of people management, being with people on all different levels and all different situations, has helped me in my personal life tremendously.
Mm-hmm. I can see how that would be the case. Like equanimity, not just as an idea, but an actual experience. Because you have to sit with two different kinds of fire sometimes.
You do. Yeah, exactly. And that's, the thought about the Shaoyin and the Shaoyang, it's fast, really getting into those two, the imperial fire or heavenly fire and the earthly or ministerial fire, yin and yang. It's yin and yang. So the Shaoyin being the more gentle, if you will, expression of fire, and then the Shaoyang being the much more expressive, overt expression of fire. And we see that seasonally. So if we just look at the qi seasons, being the second qi period is the Shaoyin, it's that gentle warming. Typically it's a relatively gentle warming period where the warmth of spring really shows itself and gets us set up to go into the summer months, which is the full expression being Shaoyang. And that is the outward expression, like a flower. Like if you think of the yin expression as the first bud that comes about, and then it needs the warmth to continue and to support it, and then the warmth to intensify so that it can truly blossom. And that's the Shaoyang. And in maturity, I think of that when that what you were talking about, when we're younger, it's like, oh, this is cool. I can change this. I can change the world. I can do this. I can do that. That's that real fun fire energy. And then we mature and it becomes a little bit more grounded as we go towards the Tai Yin, right? The transformative time, which is coming up in July, around about July 20th, 22nd, around there.
Okay. So about the time this airs. So help me reorient again for just a moment, okay? We've been in the springtime. It's been the Shaoyin, which is that like internal... I love the Shaoyin fire. I can feel it in the spring. And the way that I know that it's coming is I can wash my hands in cold water and my hands don't get cold. And then I know it's here.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I have to always wash my hands in hot water so I don't put cold hands on a patient.
Right.
But at a certain point in the springtime, I don't need to do that. I can have warm hands without warm water.
The gentle warmth.
The gentle warmth. Yeah, it's really, really notable. This year, it's been struggling with the Taiyang, which is cold.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, from like a psychoemotive point of view, what kind of struggles would that show up as?
My observation has been a blocking, not in an aggressive, awful way, just more of, if you think of that gentle warmth, that beginning of expression of the growth that comes out of spring, that Taiyang water, cold, is holding that expression back. And so it's coming. It is coming, but it's almost like it needs to incubate a little bit longer. Like that cold yin energy of the Taiyang being winter, it's wanting to hold on to that time where things get to percolate and incubate before they come out. So it's sort of been a thwarted expression, even though it's still coming.
Looking at the world events as they are at this moment, there's a part of me that feels grateful that the expression of fire is a bit thwarted, because it's already pretty chaotic to me. It's already pretty topsy-turvy.
It is.
And thinking about something that might be putting the brakes on it a bit, and again, maybe because of my age, maybe if I was a younger person, I'd be like, yeah, burn it down. I'm happy to see it go a little bit slower. I
am too. And because it is coming, like once we get more fully into the Shaoyang or third Qi period, we're in it, but it's slow to take off. And then the Jueyin starts to show itself. We could be in for a little bit of a wild few weeks or month or so before it settles down again into the Taiyin. But the visiting Qi for the Taiyin or fourth Qi period is Shaoyin. So that fire is not going away yet,
This episode is brought to you by Jane, my favorite clinic management software that's here to make practice life a little easier. For many of us practitioners, documentation can feel a bit clunky and disrupt the flow of an appointment. That's where Jane's templates can help. With dozens of customization options, you can tailor your templates to your workflow so you can focus your energy on what matters, which is helping your patients. Instead of starting from scratch, Jane includes access to an extensive template library built by practitioners across different disciplines. You can simply edit any template to fit your unique needs, or create your own templates for every step of patient care, including intake forms, questionnaires, clinical surveys, and treatment plans. This way, you have everything you need to start your appointments prepared. Learn more about how Jane can help your documentation work for you. Head to meet.jane.app/documentation to book a demo. Oh, one last thing. If you're ready to get started with Jane, use the code geopolitics for a 1-month grace period on your new Jane account. Okay, now this Shaoyang Jueyin period runs from when till when?
Around May 20th to July. This year, the great heat is at July 22nd.
Okay.
So the energies will peak. Well, the yang energies for the year will peak at that time. And then there'll be the shift over into the development of the yin.
So we're in it now.
We're in that Shaoyang period now, yeah.
We're in that Shaoyang Jueyin period as we're recording this and when this publishes.
Yes, we'll be right at the end of the period. But the being an inadequate year, the Taiyin expression will come a little bit slower. So it'll probably show up more in August.
Is everything a bit delayed because of that inadequate metal? Everything's...
Yes, yeah. In the Neijing, it talks how the seasonal manifestation comes behind heaven. So it's slower than the natural order of things. As opposed to in an abundant year, it comes early.
Okay. So it's like you skip ahead, a skip back.
Yeah, it's that ebb and flow. And then there's years that are balanced, occasionally. We don't have one coming up yet. I think maybe in 2030 something we might. I have to look at my tables, but there are years where it's balanced and everything shows up when it's meant to. But the last few years, it's always been switching from inadequate to excess.
That feels right.
Yeah, it really was really clear in 2020, an excess metal year. It was quite jarring. And then since then, we've just been unfolding. Life is always unfolding. It was just that 2020 was a little bit of a bookend for us all. But and now, we're dealing with a whole nother realm of chaos, actually. So it's never ending.
No, it's not. Which is that's life here on the dirt ball, right?
It is. It is. And things, you were talking about history, and my mother was born in 1924, and she went through the Depression, she went through World War II. I mean, it was endless what that generation experienced. And my grandmother's generation, she went through both World War I and II, and the Depression. And it's really, if you think about it, pretty much ever since World War II, the Korean War, Vietnam War, we've been doing okay, if you think about it. And especially in this country, in Western countries, like it's like, it's doesn't mean that it's not awful. It is. But there's, if you really sit and think about it, I have a comfortable life. Like, I have my home, I have my clinic, I have my car, I have my relationship, I can feed myself, so I'm, I feel very fortunate. And it's not always that way. It's not all like that for many people on the earth now.
True. Are you familiar with Steve Pinker at all?
Mm-mm.
I think he's a Harvard psychologist. Anyway, he's done some work and written some books about how things actually have never been better than they are now. It's safer. There's more prosperity. People eat better. Now, of course, resources are not evenly distributed throughout the whole world. So the whole world is not like the one that you and I are living in. But in terms of people not living in the kind of poverty that they were living in 100 years ago, in terms of life expectancy, look, we have a medical system that we love to complain about, but we've never been this long-lived. So there's that as well. There's actually been a ridiculous amount of prosperity that has unfolded, at least in the developed countries that we're living in, since the Second World War. There's been setbacks, there's been problems, but like the place of women in the world,
right? Yeah,
way improved, right?
Right.
In terms of people wanting to live whatever lifestyle that they want to live, try that 100 years ago. Nope. So there's a lot of acceptance that we didn't have. So yes, we're in a troubled time. It's hard, but it's like it's hard to see the foundation.
It is at times
because we're so used to it.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of our norm, right? It's normal for us to feel discomfortable. Yeah.
It's normal for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So things, will continue on the path that we're on, and the energies will show themselves. And another thing that I like to remind myself of, Michael, is when something gets too excessive, there will be a counterbalance, and it's opposite. For example, next year is a fire horse year, but the overarching period chi, the yun chi, is excess water. So there you know what I mean? So it's like, oh, this is great. Because I'm working on next year's calendar and book right now. And so I've been kind of getting ahead of myself a little bit because I'm looking at 2026. But once I started to take all my notes and all the different players for the year, I relaxed. I was like, okay, the 5 period chi is excess water. So that fiery nature of the year coming from the fire horse is going to be tempered.
That sounds like a real relief. Man, if it was fire, we would have, or wood.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
That could be troublesome. But it's water. Yeah, I feel relieved hearing that as well.
Yeah, and this year, with the inadequate metal being the 5 period chi, the reality is wind and fire are going to need to be tempered. That's just what we're dealing with. That's the natural energies of the year. And water and earth are our revenge chi is one of the terms that's used, but essentially there's a counterbalancing forces. So when fire gets too much, then water will come in and temper it. And Li Hong's, he talks about this really well in several sections of his book, Li Hong, and he makes it sound so practical and matter of fact. When anything gets excessive, its opposite will take the energy into a different direction. And that's temperance, that's balance, it's homeostasis. That's why, how this whole wonderful world that we live in can exist. It's because of these transformations and swings from different elements to another one to create balance.
Yes, I would agree with you. And the reason that I would agree with you is because I've watched it happen enough times that something comes along and it really knocks things off kilter. It cannot help but sow the seeds of its own demise.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I remember learning in Chinese medicine school, probably learning is not the right word, hearing in Chinese medicine school about yin and yang. And if you get too much yin, then it'll turn into yang. And, in my mind, I'm going, how the hell does that happen? But it seemed like a really cool poetic thing. And, I kind of get it. I would phrase it differently at this point. I wouldn't call it the balance of yin and yang. I would call it the tyranny of yin and yang. Seriously, you get too much yang and it's going to bring a lot of yin. And that yin is it's going to do everything it can to overwhelm yang because you know what? Screw you.
Right. Yep. The natural order.
It's a natural order. It brings a balance, but I wouldn't say that the process is necessarily harmonious.
If you get into the details of it, more than likely not. If you look at it from the macro, there's a balance there somewhere. Yet I just started working with someone who has stage 4 pancreatic cancer and is in that space of transitioning from how did this happen to me to how do I live in this paradigm now for whatever time I have left. And I walked away from that session deeply reminded of the reality and dichotomy of life and death. It was just like, there is life in death. It's quite remarkable. And it's dying consciously, really. And that is, to me, that somewhat harsh reality of yin and yang. And they are intricately, as we know, connected.
Absolutely. Cannot be unwoven from each other. Phenomenally entangled.
Exactly. And so, we can look at a year or any given time, point in time and understand or observe the energies and learn about the expression of the energies at play. But at the end of the day, the essence is, how do we dance with it? Because if we fight, it's just going to be uncomfortable. And then, it's part of life. I mean, you mature. If I was having this discussion when I was 25, I probably would have been raging against the machine. But now it's, I've learned enough that it's like, okay, this isn't ideal. It's not my preference. But how do I dance in motion with what's happening?
How do I dance in motion?
With it. Like not, yeah.
Yes. No, I love you adding in motion there.
Well, it's always moving.
Yeah. Because when I think of dance, I think of motion. But somehow when you say dance in motion, like the reminder that there's motion. We're not dancing a dance that doesn't move things forward. We're dancing a dance that actually makes things change in motion.
Exactly.
That's a really powerful little addition there.
Yeah, it's watching anything grow, like a plant, especially this last few weeks with the erratic nature of the heat trying to warm things up and get things going, but then these cold snaps. And at one point I was like, is my spinach ever going to make it, kind of thing? And sure enough, it warmed up enough consistently, but not too much, that it took off. It was quite fascinating. And the spinach, it's just, it's at the mercy of what's going on, right, to its climate. And then we went at the mercy in healthy way, not in a victimized way. You know what I mean?
No, I love that. We're all at the mercy of not just the spinach.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And so if we know we're sensitive to wind, or we know we're sensitive to heat, and we're moving in the northern hemisphere, moving into the warmest time of the year, and the visiting chi is going to be wind, what do? We're mindful.
It helps, for me, it helps to have a forecast, a warning, if you will. Oh, warning, wind. Okay, Michael Max. Well, in that case, can you work on not being so dang reactive? Like, can you tamp down your blah, blah, blah around this or that, whatever it is that's got me fired up? It's good to know, be attentive to this.
Yeah.
Right? You're in a windy time. Don't fan the flames.
No. And for some, meditation's going to be beneficial. Others, it's going to be yoga or Pilates or anything really that can help us maintain a sense of groundedness. You know, whether it's maybe you do acupressure or acupuncture, needle yourself, moxa if you think you need it, on stomach 36, just as a daily ritual. Just like stay here, combine it with liver 3, like that anchoring, you know, soothing the liver, nurturing it. And
So I've been working with 4-needle sorts of things lately in Som acupuncture, and which has been really fascinating. And there's been some discussion lately about you can do heating and cooling treatments on different meridians, which I've been mucking around with a little bit lately. It's fascinating. So yeah, it's like, okay, this would be a good time. The liver is already a bit cool because it's Drayan wood. It's cool. It's a cool wind. But I could add some coolness to the liver and really take it down a notch, right? Or add some extra coolness to the water.
exactly.
So that it will be even better bringing down the heat.
Yeah, a countermeasure.
Yes.
Yeah, and, you know, fire types are naturally, they're just going to need cooling. It's because of naturally, I mean, every summer you could say that a fire personality or fire body type needs to be cooled. They just at least need to be tempered. You don't want to turn their fire out, you know, you don't want to blow it out, but you want to temper it. And that's where the water comes in.
Temper it. Yeah. Add water.
Add water. Yeah.
Add water. Sounds like the recipe for a cake in the 70s. Add water. 2 eggs and water.
Yeah.
You spoke a moment ago about revenge chi, the revenge cycle. And maybe just because we're living in the moment that we're living in, a lot of hurt feelings across many different domains and lots of strife, maybe more strife than we've seen in a long time. You know, we're just talking about there's actually been a period of relative peace and prosperity.
Right.
You know, at least throughout, you know, Western culture, that seems to be disintegrating. So revenge chi, tell me about that piece of the cycle. I'm used to the regular Ke cycle.
Yeah, I mean, so the Ke cycle, controlling cycle, is the natural balance. That's how I perceive it. So metal is meant to control wood in the sense of a healthy Ke cycle would be that it's like the ebb and flow of water, like the balance beam sort of thing. Everything needs to stay even for harmonious balance, right? So each of the elements has a controller, and when they're in a healthy relationship, that's great, right? When things get unbalanced or go into imbalance, the controller can over-control, or the controlled can counteract back onto the controller, which we know. This is 5 elements, right? So when it comes to reference to the revenge chi in the Neijing, so far in my studies and my understanding is when, for example, this year, being an inadequate metal year, it's easy for fire to dominate metal because metal is weaker and that balance between the 2 elements is out of balance. And so fire can get too bossy with metal. And then metal's not controlling wood, and so that's also fueling fire. So the revenge chi is water. because the fire ultimately is going to be the bully in the room. Also, in some people, and in some instances, wood's going to overact on earth, right? Because wood's abundant, and metal can't control wood.
And wood likes to spread out.
It does, yeah. So it can overact on earth, and depending on the circumstance and the person, earth can push back. In let's say someone's an excess earth person, born in an excess earth year, in their system, it's quite possible that it could go back onto wood. And really, it's just a matter of looking within a system, whether it's a person or out into a greater world, to see how the potential energies can manifest. But for this year, the most obvious revenge chi potential is water.
Is water on fire. What would that look like in somebody in your clinic? Maybe something in their life, or maybe a world event, or relationships between people. How would I see that manifest, and where I go, oh, there it is. I see it.
Yeah. I mean, climatically, it's the easiest way to observe it is that we maybe go through a particularly hot spell, and then boom, here comes this cold front. And not only is it cold, but it's very, very wet.
Mm-hmm.
In the body, it's more, I think, with how it shows up in physically or maybe in a condition, somehow, it's kind of interesting. The term that comes to mind is the puff goes out of the dragon somehow. So, do you know what I mean? Like someone's water element, whether it's due to a dietary shift or a climactic influence, really just snuffs out their fire. Do you know what I mean? Like maybe they're working on something that involves a lot of creativity, and they maybe get a cold that's particularly watery and damp, and they've got a fuzzy head and they can't create anymore. It's like, do you know what I mean? Like kind of that creative expression, that creative manifestation of fire is subdued. It's kind of like the relationship of the Shaoyin period being visited by the Taiyang.
Mm-hmm.
It's the creativity's there, the fire's there, but something has shifted within that person in terms of pathology, where the water element becomes aggressive towards the fire and just brings it down. Does that make sense?
It does make sense.
Yeah.
It does make sense. And I'm just thinking too, I guess because I'm just noticing how upset everybody is on every side of everything at this moment. Doesn't matter where you stand. A lot of upsetness. I'm thinking about that angry fire. I'll just make it really personal. Like when I'm angry and out of sorts and having an argument, or fallout with somebody that I care about, there's that expression of fire, and that's usually followed in some way by tears.
Yeah.
Which snuffs it out.
Yeah, water. Yeah. And also taking it to another level of understanding or discussion is, fear coming in and undermining that fiery passion. Fear, and that gets into everybody's personal makeup and psychological profile, but fear can take the wind out of many sails, right?
Sure can.
There can be the impetus, the desire, the creative thought, the spark of inspiration. And if there's fear, fear can come along and just stop it in its tracks. So that would be another example of how it might manifest in relationships, within ourselves. Just that fear comes along and pretty much freezes the creative process. And that creative process could be blazing, but the fear will just snuff it out.
I think most people that are creative have run into that from time to time. I don't think you can be creative without, at a certain moment, being a little bit like Icarus.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, are my wings melting?
Exactly.
Should I be up here?
Exactly. Yeah. And, but sometimes that it's helpful. Maybe that fear on some level is a little bit self-protective in a good way. Maybe it's not the right time. Like maybe there needs to be more cultivation.
Oh, totally. I've had projects I've worked on. Hey, this is a great idea. Go, 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 go. And then I'm like Wile E. Coyote off on the edge of a cliff.
Right. Yeah,
Because I hadn't stopped to consider, is this actually, just because I can doesn't mean I should.
exactly.
There's a place for fear that way.
Yeah, and I think with all the disruption right now and anger and bitterness and hurt feelings, it's the need for centeredness is really important. Like non-engagement, if you can help it. And that's watery, that's earth. Earth and water keep us grounded. They keep us in place, right? Whereas the wind and fire, they can really take us out into places that can be extremely exciting and exhilarating and thought-provoking and stimulating. But ultimately, for it to have value, it needs some grounding. It needs to be rooted in the yin, which is water, and then the earth, right?
Sunten has been a trusted name in traditional Chinese medicine since 1946. With deep roots in classical herbal wisdom, Sunten combines time-honored practices with modern science to support health and wellness. Their extensive line of herbal extracts and supplements is manufactured to the highest quality standards, helping practitioners deliver consistent, reliable results. Through the Sunten dispensary platform, licensed healthcare professionals can easily create and customize herbal formulas online. These prescriptions are hand-prepared and shipped directly to patients, making personalized TCM care more accessible than ever. Their commitment extends beyond products. They actively support integrative care by enabling clinicians to offer customized herbal solutions that seamlessly fit into modern treatment plans. With nearly 80 years of experience, Sunten remains a pioneer in bridging traditional knowledge with today's healthcare needs. To learn more, visit sunten.com or suntendispensary.com. 100%. Thinking about transformative idealism, we both had a taste of that, but how do you ground that into actual daily life? I mean, I think an acupuncture practice is a great way to do it. You were talking earlier about the clientele that you see. You have to be able to sit in an equanimous, is that a word? Equanimous position. Be open to the experience of anybody that you're in front of.
Exactly.
And that's a whole different way of rooting into what's earth.
It really is. And into the core, the essence of what we're doing. And I think, and I feel lucky / grateful in my journey as a practitioner that very early on in my clinical practice, I had a lot of support. I had a lot of mentors, amazing mentors around me that were also quite a bit older than me, that instilled in me very, very early on to manage my expectations when it comes to my patients. In fact, to the point of don't have any expectations. Have expectations of yourself, but if they don't do what you say, or if they don't take your wise advice about diet or what have you, don't take it personally. And so I feel like I used to talk about this when I was teaching master's level classes. My clinic space is my clinic space. When I walk through the door into my clinic, everything about my life stays on the other side of the door. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't share a personal story or relevant to the person I'm with, but in terms of my feelings, my passions, my opinions, they all stay on the other side of the door.
Mm-hmm.
And so now this year has been challenged just a little bit because I'm human and, I get bombarded by the news sometimes if I allow myself to, and which I've managed to stop doing. And, social media, sometimes it's just absolutely awful. So I limit it and I don't bring it into the clinic with me. And it's kind of this safe bubble that I create for myself just as much as my patients.
I suspect because you're creating it for yourself, you've created an inviting space for your patients to walk into.
That's kind of been the goal, yeah. And it's quiet.
Yes.
I have a thing about quiet. In my office building, you share a space. It's like sharing. You're in the world with a whole bunch of people, and it's interesting how sensitive I am to noise because I want that serene space, and you can only do so much, right? So, but yeah, it's important, and especially in these times, it's important because everybody, regardless of where you are on the spectrum in terms of what's happening, it's intense. It really is.
It's been good practice for me as a practitioner to watch my thoughts, notice my emotions, watch my opinions. Oh my God, I'm so opinionated. and not suppress it, but not express it. It's part of that milieu, but I can just watch it float by.
Perfect. Yeah.
On a good day.
On a good day. Yeah. Recently, I was watching a very fun series on TV that I like, and there was a exchange between a tourist and a Buddhist monk, and the Buddhist monk was holding a meditation class, and there was a whole bunch of European, American, non-Asian people in the class, and he brought up thoughts and meditation. He said, when a thought comes into your mind, say hello, sit quietly, and then say goodbye. And I thought it was so simple. I was just like, that is perfect. It is so perfect. It's not, no, don't come in. It's like, hello, you're welcome. I see you.
Mm-hmm.
And now goodbye.
Mm-hmm.
And I think being able to hold that space when we're feeling good, okay, it's easy, right? But when we are not having the best day, or we've listened to something that has been a bit distressing, or engaged with a conversation, that's when you want to use that practice. It's like, I see you, I hear you, now you can go. Yeah.
Yeah, no cup of tea for you.
Yeah. So I think one of the plus sides of this year is movement, even though it can get chaotic and it needs to be tempered and on some level contained, not constricted or restrained, but contained. Then we can capitalize or dig in, tap into the positive nature of the energies at play in the year.
I've heard you use a number of different words in our conversation today that they're like opposites or they're similar. You just said contained, not restricted. And I think to myself, oh, that's right. It's so easy, at least for me, to get caught up in that yin-yang. It's this or it's that. And there's actually all these other permutations, right? If you're just looking at yin and yang, all right, you're pretty much stuck with polarities. And good luck, because those polarities are out to destroy each other. They really are. Mm-hmm. Yin and yang are not on friendly terms in my experience. They are on fuck you terms. They really are. This is just my experience, at least where I'm at with it right now.
Right.
Yang wants to do yin in, and yin wants to smother yang, and like, that's it, man. You're gone.
Well, that's certainly what's being expressed out in the greater world.
It is expressed in the greater world, and my suspicion, I'm just guessing here after 20 plus years of practice, that if this is just a theory, it's not a theory, it's a hypothesis. Yin and yang, they really are out for each other's throat. They really are fuck you. Like, I'm winning and you're losing. That's what I want. And if we just keep it at that yin and yang, that's what you get. But fortunately, we have Tai-yang aspect. We have Shaoyang aspect. We have Tai-yin. We have Shaoyin. We have Trade, right? We have these different energies that create a kind of nuance. And sometimes they can team up and be like allies. For instance, Shaoyang and Zheyin, you get some fiery wind going. Okay, you got some change to make. Put those two together. That'll be helpful. It actually will.
Right.
You might need to cool things down. So like some Tai-yang with Shaoyin.
Mm-hmm.
That'll cool things down.
Mm-hmm.
That'll be helpful. Or it can make things too cool. But I think there's a kind of a nuance that comes out of this 5-phase 6 chi that we've been talking about, that allows for a kind of transformation, that allows for a kind of an energy that we've just been discussing in terms of being able to sit with somebody in our clinic. And we don't have to resort to the yin and yang because you're in trouble if all you got is yin or yang. But if you have these other nuances and you know what they are, and you can feel how those energies express in yourself and in others, maybe we have a shot at something else.
Harmony, yeah.
Maybe.
Well, the expression like Taiyang, Yang Ming, Shaoyang, etc., they're manifestations of yin and yang. They're just not as, well, the reality is the broadest reach of being is yin and yang. The expression of it, though, is the vehicle. I think that's where you're going. So like the melding or the layering of energies is what creates more of a flow than just sitting with yin or yang. Does that make sense? So it's sort of like the gray bits in between. So as you progress from the more yang states into the yin, that's a journey. That's not I'm going to jump from yin to yang or vice versa. Nature does it very gradually.
On a good day.
It's a process. On a good day.
We had a big tornado go through here. It was not true. It was not harmonious.
No, you are correct. Yeah.
A lot of change very quickly.
It can be quite dramatic. Yeah. Which is going back to the overarching energies of the year, which is a lot of change, a lot of sudden change, a lot of wind.
A lot of wind.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, too, something that is human nature, I don't know whether it's that we want to look through rose-colored glasses or it's almost like we have this unrelenting assumption that all processes are going to be beautiful and warm and fuzzy. And they're just not. Being born is not warm and fuzzy.
Where do you think we get this idea? We're in the healthcare industry. We deal with people suffering all the time. I don't think we see a whole lot of rose-colored glasses in our everyday life. Where does this idea come from that it's supposed to be warm and fuzzy and cushy and comfortable?
It's a great question. I mean, really, there's lots of layers to that question too, actually. But I think, and it's going to be somewhat personal to each individual, but there's that always look on the bright, this song, always look on the bright side of life. It's kind of like, is the cup half empty or is it half full? And we're meant to see the good in everything, right? No matter how ugly it may be, we're meant, I think this sort of like this universal or cultural consciousness that is see the good in everything. And I don't know that that's true. I don't know. I just know for me, I've become more and more of a realist, and my view of the world is much more practical and pragmatic than it ever has been. And I feel like I've gotten there through my own trials, but also getting to a point where if I want to enjoy my time here and get the most out of it that I feel like I can get in terms of just being and learning and reading and interacting with my world, then I need to have an open, practical, gentle disposition. Does that make sense?
Open, practical, gentle disposition. I would like to have one of those too.
Right. I don't always have it.
No.
But the more I read the Neijing and Li Hong's book, and I'm also doing some reading. I'm sure you've heard of Joe Dispenza.
Yes.
And it's interesting. I was reading Li Hong's book this week, and he talks about how the Shaoyin or the heavenly fire, the ministerial fire, is that spark. It's a spark that warms our chi. Like it's what keeps us alive, right? And it's the connection to the great void. It's the connection to nothingness. And the Shaoyang, conversely, is the form. Is the fire taking form. And it's really cool. And how do things manifest, right? And so he quotes Plato, and the other person's name went out of my head, philosophers, about how nothing can become manifest without first being known from within. So the heart fire, the heavenly fire, is that connection to our unconscious, our subconscious, and our innate intuition. And we can't bring anything into being without first conceptualizing it from within. And typically it comes in an image. And then it's the Shaoyang, the earthly fire, that makes manifest, that takes that innate knowing, that vision, and then brings it into thought, action, and creation. So then I'm reading Joe Dispenza, and he talks about one of his meditations about going into the nothingness. Don't feel, don't see, just be. And I realized I had this aha moment. I'm like, oh my gosh, they're talking about the same thing. It's exactly the same thing. But it was first written about in the Book of Changes, which is thousands of years. It's just mind-blowing to me that I'm reading two different time periods about the same thing.
And I think you've just put your finger on something essential. You know, the imperial fire and the ministerial fire, this is something I have not really understood very well in my entire time practicing Chinese medicine. Ministerial fire, I hear about it all the time and different manifestations and this and that, but it's always been slippery for me.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I don't really get it. I hear people talking about it and I feel kind of stupid because it's like, I don't really get it. And then there's this, and then the imperial fire, okay, something special about that. But we also have this story, right? Part of our Chinese medicine mythology is that we have the emperor who's too busy with his own heavenly domain to be bothered with the world. And so we have the ministerial fire take care of that. I don't buy that either.
No.
This idea that we've got this emperor who's like busy with palace affairs and he's too busy with heaven to deal with people, like, I don't think so. It just doesn't fit for me.
Well, there's a separation there, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
No, I've been with you, Michael, for years. I'm like, I don't know I'm not getting it. I don't get the distinction. And it wasn't until in my recent studies, banging my head on the Neijing, and then Li Hong's book, which is such a great companion in this journey that I've had with the Neijing. But he explained it in such a way that, and then at the same time me reading a completely different genre like Joe Dispenza 2025, and realizing like, wait, this is the same thing. Like essentially the imperial fire being the emperor. It's like saying, I was going to say like saying God being a figurehead. In the essence of spirituality, yes, any God is a figurehead, but it's not this one person that has all this almighty power, right? And so that delivery being the emperor, being busy with palace affairs and not having time to come down and be earthly, is that same kind of messaging. And there's a separation. When really it's all within us and our connection to the divine. There's many terms for it. The great void, the Tao, the abyss, the nothingness, which is the beginning of all of us. And that the Shaoyin is that spark within that void that makes manifest. And hence us as human beings. It's like it is literally the fire that fuels our qi, that beats our heart, that then circulates blood, etc., right? Our physiology. The Shaoyang, the earthly fire, is more the intellect, like the actual action that comes from that spark. And the Shaoyang is able to bring it out into the world and have it expressed. It's pretty cool. And
it is pretty cool.
Yeah. And this morning when I was thinking about our session and I did my little walk around the garden, I realized, I was like, oh my gosh, the full expression of the Shaoyang is like looking at a fully blossomed flower. It's like, here I am. I was a seed, which is the connection to the divine, and now I've come full manifest, and here I am in all my glory expressed. And so we can apply that understanding, I think, to everything at any time.
So this is lovely. The ministerial fire is our expression in the world.
Yes.
Of something that comes voiceless, imagelessness. It comes out of the void. It comes into a kind of expression. We may get a song, we may get an image, we may get a thought, but it comes out of that still nothingness. There's your imperial fire, the part that can pick up that. And then it's the ministerial fire's job to build it, make it happen.
To bring it out. To bring it out.
Bring it out into the world and manifest it. So a really healthy, functioning ego would be an expression of the ministerial fire.
It would. And if you think about it in terms of the 6 chi, or 6 chi, the easiest way to sit with that, the idea is that Shaoyang, I think of the Shaoyang being smack in the middle. I know it's not, because you've got 3 yin and you've got 3 yang, but it is the pivot from the inside to the outside. And so that is another example of how it is connected to the imperial fire on the inside and then brings things out into the outside. And the health of the Shaoyang, the gallbladder system, gallbladder sanjiao, is being able to hinge like a healthy, not a squeaky door, not a door that kind of opens quarter of the way, then swings back. It's the ability to fully open and fully close, to go fully in, to come fully out. And that's the essence of the dual nature of fire, and how when it gets manifest as a season, it's the lesser yin, Shao Yin, comes into the Shao Yang, and then Yang can fully manifest.
This is a really helpful conversation. At the beginning of talking with you today, I was feeling incredibly trepidatious about the Shaoyang fire with the Zhuyin wind of the season. Very worrisome to me, because I so often associate the Shaoyang with the gallbladder. And the gallbladder is one thunderous, make things happen kind of organ. And don't get in its way, because it will mow you down. Thunder fire. Yeah. And we all need some thunder fire. So fair enough. And it's a good thing to have thunder fire when you need thunder fire.
Right.
But hearing about the pivot all the way open and all the way closed, and hearing about the connection with the imperial fire, which is, you can't really put a name on it.
But it's there. It's always there.
But there's a connection to it. It's there. It's always there, and there's a connection to it. And it's this Shaoyang that manifests it. I'm feeling a whole lot more friendly toward the Shaoyang now.
Good.
Maybe that's not the right word. I'm feeling less afraid of the Shaoyang.
Yeah, I think.
Than I was about an hour ago.
Yeah, I'm very Shaoyang, actually, my constitution, and so I've learned how to manage fire in terms of my emotional responses and just general way of being in the world a lot. I'm 63, it's kind of like you learn a lot, as you go through life. But my understanding of it has grown in terms of connection to flow. Let that door swing, let the hinge, you don't need to stop it. You don't want it going back and forward too fast, right? There needs to be some temperance. But, going into this next season, or we're in it, and by the time this podcast airs, we'll be right in it, coming towards the end of it. I'm feeling, because of being connected to this material and having this conversation, I've been sitting with, formulas, foods, like how can I support the likely agitation that may come for myself, my patients, the world around us. We can only do so much. And so, I think of point combinations and, Bai Shao. Oh my gosh, Bai Shao when it comes to soothing and cooling. Yes, specifically the liver, but, in turn, the gallbladder, the heart. Yeah. So, I would kind of just leave it there in terms of what we can do clinically, is just think of gentle cooling and grounding, that earth and water energy to help give some containment to all this fire and wind that we've got going on around us.
Be the earth, be the water.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because there's a whole nother discussion between the relationship of water and fire, the Shaoyin, in terms of channel pairs, and the heart and kidney and water and fire. And that's a whole nother discussion and another complex one. But the water aspect of fire is very much connected to what we're talking about.
Well, we'll have to come back and have a conversation about that another time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Now, given that this conversation will be airing toward the end of this moment of Minji, what's up next?
We'll move into the Taiyin, the fourth Qi period for the year, and the visiting Qi is Shaoyin. So we've still got the fire
Shaoyin
with us. A little less troublesome, I guess, the relationship between fire and earth. You know, in practical terms, it'll be a warmer, damp, late summer because of that Shaoyin influence. But there is some harmony there between those two.
Okay, so I'm sorry, Shaoyin and what?
Taiyin.
And Taiyin.
Yeah.
Shaoyin, Taiyin. Okay.
So Taiyin's the natural expression of the season, and then the Shaoyin's the visiting or guest Qi. So the warmth will stay with us. It'll be gentler and tempered by the dampness of Taiyin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what's nice, though, is that the Taiyin is going to settle that wind from this particular Qi period, which we've got the Jueyin. Yeah.
We're back to balance. You were talking about this earlier, how something really arises next year, for example, fire horse. Woohoo, giddy up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But in the presence of water.
Yes. Yeah.
So this reminds me a little bit of hanging out in clinic, especially with people that I feel challenged by, noticing the resistances that come up or noticing the differences. And sometimes those differences are kind of counterbalancing influences. They don't have to be a problem. They can be information, might even be useful.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's room for it all. And I think one of the things I learned in my journey of being in relationship personally, but also just in my world with colleagues and patients and what have you, is allowing, and we go back to that space of allowing two seemingly incongruent, opposite energies, events, experiences to live in the same space. Because that's really going back to that yin and yang paradigm. I mean, we've got the Taiji symbol, and it's a nice, perfectly round symbol. But within that round symbol, there is chaos, or there can be chaos, right?
Can be.
Yeah. But at the same time,
there can be.
If we allow two seemingly opposite forces to be in the same space at the same time and just sit with it,
contain it,
you'll find that they can coexist.
Contained, not restricted, as I think you said.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Contained, not restricted or restrained.
Or not restrained.
Because that causes it. That causes issues. There has to be.
Especially if you have some Shaoyang fire.
Right.
Strain this.
Yeah. Need the room for movement. Yeah.
Yeah. Room for movement. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Room for movement. I've heard it said by people that are like masters of negotiation. There's this guy, Chris Voss. He's an ex-FBI negotiator. And he's like really smart with negotiation stuff. He's fun to listen to. And it's like, yeah, you need to give people room to move.
Yeah.
Right? You need to give people room to move. Like, especially if you're on a stuck position. You got to give people a way out.
Well, yeah, and there's also that principle, what you resist persists, right?
There's that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, talk to my wife about that. She'll tell you all about that with
me. Whenever I remind myself of that, it sometimes feels like a little clip on the cheek. Like, come on, you're in that resistant space. And if you want something to shift, then this ain't working. Yeah.
It's not a lesson that we learn just once.
No. And it comes up. You could be working with somebody and their migraine headaches have dissipated down to like maybe once every 3 or 4 months, and everything's going really, really well. And then they come in and it's like, I've had a migraine for like 3 days, and it's like, what blocked the flow? What did it? And that's the number one thing to find out. Like, okay, what happened? What blocked the flow? And then we get it moving again, and it moves again, and the headaches go away. So it's a cycle. Well, things don't always come around to the same point every time. It's going to be life, ebb and flow.
Yes, indeed. We'll just take that forward.
Perfect.
Into this next period. And I look forward to sitting down with you again. I would love to explore more about the Shaoyin pivot because that gets talked about a lot in kidney and heart. It's another one of those things, not unlike Imperial and Ministerial fire. I get it in a way. I know it's important because it gets talked about all the time, but I can't say I really grok it.
Yeah, I think for me, it's been an unfolding process. And being such a Zhang Fu, 8 principles, type Qi, blood, body fluids type of practitioner, and diving into the material in the classics like I have over the last 5 or 6 years, oh my gosh, I talk about learning and also understanding so much more to learn. And so I'm with you. It's like, okay, wait, I have not thought of the Shaoyin as a pivot. What? Okay. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of like, but it is.
It's taken me, honestly, Christine, until this moment to understand Shaoyin as a pivot. Because it's like Shaoyang is a pivot. I get that. That's obvious. Mm-hmm. Well, shouldn't Dre Yin be the other pivot? It's like the end of something. And I never got how Shaoyin could be a pivot. I understand that's the way they talk about it, but in talking with you today, in talking about the process of there is something from what cannot be named that we have a bit of a spark into, and that comes through the part that can't see, can't hear, can't speak, because it's not formed, but it comes through and then manifests through the Shaoyang.
Right?
There's your pivot of creation. There it is right there. Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Lots to think about and, sit and contemplate.
And lots to explore.
Mm-hmm. Lots to explore.
This is why clinic is so dang much fun.
It is. It's kept me occupied and engaged for an awfully long time. So it's lovely.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been delightful as always.
It's fun.
It is fun.
I enjoy our conversations, and I look forward to the next one.
Yes. Thank you, Michael.
Okay. Till next time, then.
Okay.
I appreciate how Christine brings a grounded clarity to these big, slippery cosmological ideas by showing how they ripple and express through both the clinic and daily life. One thing that stood out to me was the access of fire, the way the Shaoyin connects us to the void, and how the Shaoyang gives that inspiration a path to move into the world. It's a reminder that creativity, healing, even change itself, it all begins in stillness. Christine's reflections on the sluggishness of this year's metal, the runaway nature of wood and fire, and how the guest chi can stir or stall what's trying to come through. There's a lot in this conversation to sit with, especially in a time when everything feels like it's moving either too fast or not at all. Maybe, just maybe, we don't need to resist the turbulence, but we do need to meet it with steadfastness, with attention. Fire can inspire or scorch. Wind, it can move or unroot. Our job is to know the difference and act accordingly. It reminds me of the value of impartial observation and cultivating the discipline of not reacting. Or maybe better put, catching myself as I'm in the process of reacting and seeing if I can add a little pause, a few heartbeats, a breath or two, and then make a choice in the response. I don't know about you, but I get opportunities to practice this multiple times a day. I fail a lot, but not always. It's worth attending to. Well, here we are at the end of this episode. If you've listened up to this point, you're either a rabid fan of Geological or the forward button on your podcast player stopped working. If you are indeed a fan of the podcast, you can help us to bring new episodes to our community of practitioners by supporting us with a membership or a one-time contribution. Details, of course, are on the website. That's it for today, friends. Join us again next Tuesday for another thoughtful episode of Geological.